Give it another minute here. Let some more people join in. All right. Well, thank you everyone again for joining us. If there are any questions, please type them into the chat or Q&A box, and I will help relay those to Coach Cushing. But Coach Case, you can go on through.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Case. I'm the special teams coordinator at Riverside Poly High School. And on behalf of the Southern California Football Coaches Association, I want to thank you all for attending our virtual clinic. Today, we're very excited for our next speaker, Adam Cushing. Coach Cushing is the head coach at Eastern Illinois University, and his topic for this session is going to be creating culture, clarify, simplify. What does this make possible? All right, Coach, whenever you're ready.
Coach Case, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Quick background, I won't take too much time on this, but I'm super fortunate for this opportunity. I actually started my college coaching career out in Southern California where you guys are. And so certainly when this opportunity came up, I jumped at it. I, got a lot of great friends, great connections that I made out. Started my career at the University of La Verne, Division III school there in the SCIAC conference, working for Don Morell. And then got an opportunity to, I'm actually from Chicago originally, so got an opportunity to return back to the Midwest and work at Northwestern University as a graduate assistant, and then ended up spending 15 years there, 4 years as the tight ends coach, and then 10 years as the offensive line coach before I got this opportunity to become a head coach at Eastern Illinois University. So, I think what I think is significant and why I bring that stuff up is kind of the men I got to work for along the way. I mentioned Don Morell at the University of La Verne, and then at Northwestern, I was hired by Randy Walker, and then worked 13 of those 15 years for Pat Fitzgerald, just a collection of tremendous men. And really, that's what it comes down to when you talk about culture. It's based in people, right? So sometimes culture can be such a nebulous term kind of thrown out as, what is it really? How do you define it? How do you create it? Well, it really starts with what people you're around, and just having been around such great men and been influenced that way and seen how they wanted to help develop young men is really what kind of the basis of this whole talk tonight's going to be about. And so, do you see what's put up there? Clarify, simplify, what's this make possible? That's really become kind of my mindset for creating the culture. And then I'm going to talk about specifically exactly what our culture looks like and how we kind of move forward into it. But the most important thing here as we get going is to really just acknowledge probably what I screwed up. And, I think there was a great quote. I think it was John Gordon maybe that said, it's too bad the failures aren't out on the lecture circuit. You could learn a lot from them. Well, you guys got stuck with me tonight and certainly haven't lit the world on fire in terms of wins and losses so far at Eastern Illinois. I've only been here a couple of seasons. But the bottom line is the plans to fail forward, right? We had a lot of things that we had to clean up, and really I just wanted to take you through almost from day one what it looked like to create that culture and just some of the things that we screwed up along the way, some of the things that we're going to fail forward into, and then some of it just that, kind of how we've put that foundation in place. And now that there's concrete laid down there in that foundation, how some of the things that we can build on top of it, because I really do believe culture doesn't just change overnight. And there's a difference between year one and year two. There's a difference between week one and week two. There's a difference between month one and month 6, right? So all that, I think it's truly a growth process. As I mentioned, I think, what mattered, or, kind of the big chunk of my career was spent at Northwestern University. And, obviously, if you've tracked on that a little bit, has had really great success. My last season there in 2018, played in the Big Ten championship. They played there again this past season. So in the last 2 out of the last 3 years, played in the Big Ten championship and So as I walked out of that place and walked into an opportunity I've been just, preparing for my entire career, I thought, great, I've got it. I know exactly what this thing's going to look like. I've got the linear process. I know exactly how we're going to start creating this culture, how it's going to build moving forward. And because we just went to the Big Ten championship. All this stuff's going to work. This is going to be great. I'm in great shape, right? And then I go on campus. After that, I go, I get through this process, this interview process, and I go on campus for the interview at Eastern, and I literally ask every individual that when I'm there, why am I here? Why does Eastern Illinois need a new head football coach? What aspect of the team really needs the most improvement? And what was amazing to me was everybody said the same thing. And I'm talking about, I'm not kidding you, the guy that when I went and went to the bathroom real quick, the person that was in there, I asked the same question, just some random person that didn't even know who I was and why I was on campus, but they all said discipline, right? And so as we walked in, knowing that that was the number one issue, we had to focus on that. And then, and truly, how do you flip that? How do you just walk in and completely turn that on a dime? And so as we do that, you have to start small. You have to start with those little tiny things, right? To teach how to do the little things right. Be proactive with it, but then hold that line really, really tight, right? And so what we started with, and again, I'm just going to talk through some of these things that maybe I don't want to say screwed up. We started with this idea of country club. It's a sarcastic, tongue-in-cheek term, because if you made a mistake or were late or whatever, the numerous ways that you could not do something right, we had country club at 5 a.m. where you come in and life was not real pleasant, right? And it started with, if you screw up one time, it's you. The second time you screw up, it's your position. The third time you screw up, it's your side of the ball. And the fourth time you screw up, man, sorry, you got somewhere else you got to go. We got to the point, I'm not kidding you, where we had the entire team booked into country club for a month and a half out, because that's how many issues we had on a daily basis, and truly had to go wipe it out. We had to start over. It got to the point where, wait a minute, like, this is all great. We're changing behavior, I think, or we're changing the standard, but we're doing this and we're backlogging this thing so much that are we actually, creating the right outcome, right? There's a difference between discipline and punishment is one of the things that I've learned, right? Discipline has a desired outcome. Punishment is just punishment for punishment's sake. And it ended up going past that line, right? Yet that was something that I saw work for 15 years at Northwestern. It never went to that point. And so, again, I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, how come this thing didn't work? It worked before, right? And what I realized was, and I know this sounds crazy simple, but that's part of the reason that first slide said what it said: simplify, clarify. Every place isn't the same, and you can't start at square 10 when you got to go back to square one. And there was so much time spent constructing that culture at the previous place that I couldn't just assume it was going to be done the same way and have the results come at the same pace, right? And that's really what probably revealed itself the most. Is I'm thinking I've got all these great solutions and it's going to produce these results quickly, but we didn't get the results quickly. And then there was this punishment mentality, which was truly creating the opposite. What we walked in to do was create a culture built on trust, of doing the little things right all the time. And then we could create a connection from player to player, from player to coach, built on this trust that we all know we're going to do these little things right. And then we ended up doing the opposite, right? And so again, just you can walk in with great plans and have this thing structured, but then you put it in practice and all of a sudden it just doesn't go the way it's planning to go, right? And so then, as I said, we just hit reset. I walked into the staff meeting one day and said, we're wiping the slate clean. It's the only chance we got to get this thing right. Everybody now knows what they're not supposed to do. We got to wipe the slate clean. No more country club. they're starting fresh right now. And then all of a sudden we started to get some results, right? We started to actually see, because they weren't miserable, because they just couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, because they saw the light at the end of the tunnel, behavior changed. There was a lack of issues moving forward. There were still issues. There was a much reduced amount of issues. So it's this walk in and think I've got it all. And then because I've done it before this way, and then realize that, man, maybe I have to have a little more perspective about it, right? I've got to lay the foundation. I've got to pour the foundation in concrete, not go up and start building on the second floor. And that's almost what I did, right? And another thing, we walk in and we elect this leadership council from within the program, right? We walk in and say, hey guys, we want to see who you guys believe are leaders, and go ahead. Let's, everybody, if you want to be a leader, you got to apply to this leadership council. Again, exactly how I'd seen it done. You have to apply. Okay. Who applied? Those guys are all eligible to be elected. We elect this leadership council. Okay. We have 10 guys that represent across the team, and we think, man, we got it. Look, these guys know exactly who they want to lead them, all this stuff. Well, the first sign of a leader, the first true sign of a leader, is learning how to lead themselves. And yet we didn't even teach them what the definition of that was before we even went in and elected them, right? And we allowed these guys to elect them. So again, I know it sounds strange for me to stand up here and sit up here, I guess, and talk about the things that we screwed up, but I think it's so impactful when you think about how easy it is to want to get the cart in front of the horse, and how quickly you want to see the results happen. So you do the things that are a little bit, as I said, instead of pouring the foundation, start building on that second floor, and then you just don't see the things happen. Because here we go, we elect this leadership council. We have these weekly meetings with them. I'm talking to them about, we're going to empower you to lead the team, and giving them different ways to lead the team. And then we come back and there's no results the following week. And I'm getting mad every week, going, wait a minute, why? I'm telling you exactly what to do. How come you're not carrying the message back to the locker room? But what happened was, again, we're having weekly meetings. That's not leadership. Leadership is every moment. Leadership's proactive. Leadership is truly not just big moments. It's all the little moments from every single day. It doesn't have to be these grand gestures that you walk in and say, this is how we're going to impact the locker room and create these actions, right? And I'm sitting there going, okay, I know I know that stuff. I know that there's got to be these everyday things. But man, I'm a new head coach. I'm juggling. I got 8 million balls in the air. All right, when this fits my schedule, I'll meet with the leadership council. Okay, great. So let's meet with the leadership council. Now let's get our values together. What do we stand for? We've got to know the old adage, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So we've got to know what we stand for. And kind of faded into the background of this picture you're looking at is actually the outside of our stadium. That's kind of the scaffolding you see. And I'm looking at it one day and coming back from a workout run through the, kind of through campus, and I see it kind of is almost laid out. You can see almost tiered like a pyramid. And I'm thinking, man, wouldn't it be cool? Let's build this whole thing like Coach Wooden's pyramid, and let's have these, let's have our foundational values, and then let's start talking through, exactly what we got these guys to believe in. And man, I'll sit here and I'll talk you through all this stuff right now, man. Like it's truly pretty impactful, and it's fantastic. I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you this thing was good, right? Because we sat there and we batted around ideas for, 3-4 weeks worth of this to make sure we got the right ideas. We got the right words out there. We had the players present these values we had the leadership council present these values to the team, but it was all words. Again, the lack of follow through, the lack of minute to minute, proactive leadership is what caused us to not be able to actually live this thing, right? Because we hadn't taught them how to live this thing consistently. Boy, was it grand words. And man, you would have looked at some of these young men stand up and speak in front of their team and thought, man, that guy can be president someday. Just how beautifully they spoke about it, and how really they were, they really demonstrated an understanding. But again, it isn't at all about words. It's all about action, right? It was the action needed. And we hadn't taught the team by the time we went and put this in place, we hadn't taught the team what it means to live these things consistently. So those guys that stand out as bad and that were screwing up like crazy and got us caused in the country club, they were easy to pick out that they weren't doing it right. But what about those guys? What really changes a football team is not the bottom 20%. It's not the upper 20%, because you're always going to have an upper 20 and a bottom 20. It's the middle 60. And the middle 60, when all you do is just throw pretty words at them, they find great ways to hide behind those pretty words, right? And so it becomes this way to fly under the radar, to kind of use these words as shields. And that's kind of what happened, right? We came in, and I'll be honest, we made enormous strides academically as a program. We went from a 2.35 team GPA to a 2.85 in one semester, then a 2.99, then a 3.09. I mean, all this cool stuff, discipline, attention to detail, but it was all completely coach driven, right? It was all owned by us. These words that we love so dearly were all great words, but it was all coach driven. The players could talk it, but they couldn't live it. When we weren't watching, enough of them weren't living it. Okay. And then I'm wondering truly why aren't we doing this, right? We've got all this stuff in place. I've got all these great words. This is awesome. We're making these strides in academics. We're making these strides in discipline. We, like I said, we get through that country club deal. We slash it. Man, there go the issues. But then why aren't we making the strides forward, truly living out this culture, right? Because again, I hate to say it like this, but you can get just about anybody to show up to class and not show up late if you just tell them that that's what's important. But now taking that next step of actually having consistent passion, a consistent attitude, sacrificing for your brothers, right? To compete, to respond, all these little things that go into it. Why aren't we achieving this? And here's what I resolved on, and truly when it comes back to, that very first slide, right? It comes back to clarify and simplify. I just put up in front of you, and I'm going to flip back really quick, right? I just put up in front of you, look at that thing right there, right? We've got freaking 10 words in the blocks of the pyramid, plus, you got a character hiding back there, family hiding back there, the what's important now acronym hiding in the middle there. There's 13 things going on. I'm trying to walk in the door, shift the focus of an entire football program into doing the right things all the time, and then throwing 13 things that they've got to live by. 13 things. Can you imagine trying to walk and say, I've got to build it, and then I've got to do this, and I've got to have that, and then here we are, and I'm going to take it even a step further there, right? Here we are then going into the season. We still got some kind of remaining issues kind of bouncing up here and there. And what turns out, I'm even dumber than I thought I was, because we're going into the season and then we're not having immediate success on the field, right? And some of it has to do with the attrition on the roster. I'm not going to make any excuses. We're just not having immediate success out there. And then I go, oh man, so I've coached football for a long time. I've coached for these great guys. Obviously my pyramid here isn't working. So I'm going to start having themes of the week, right? I start grasping at straws. I start saying, all right, now let's talk about front sight focus this week. And, this week we're going to talk about pumping the fire hydrant and all these different things that we just keep on bouncing to all these different ideas. Well, how in the world can I get and establish an expectation of how to live life if the target is moving, right? It's almost like I was asking them to fire at a target, and I'm constantly doing this, right? Or asking them to go out there and I'm going out there and firing something and shooting something at the wall, and wherever I hit, I go up and I paint the target around the bullet that I actually shot, right? And so I just kept on polluting their minds, not in the bad way, but of just flooding it, I guess is the better way to say it, flooding it with so many different things that if everything's important, nothing is, right? And so all of these awesome videos that I'd seen throughout my career that I'm showing them, was fortunate to spend time with the Navy SEALs training our football team for several seasons. And I'm using all these lessons and showing them videos of that and, all these different things, right? And then honestly, I just kept on going, right? And so, here's the scariest part. It didn't even hit me when it should have hit me, right? It didn't hit me during the season because I just kept on trying to find a way to help us win a game, right? I'm thinking I'm the head football coach. I can't find a way to help us win a game. I'm just going to keep finding. I'm going to find something. As soon as we win a game, I'm going to find something and I'm going to hang my hat on that. Well, again, I'm just going to keep moving the target around. And so then here's what became the most impactful. And I think this is really, really, really important. Get to the end of the season. And I started to feel it, right? I started to feel our lack of direction, or at least lack of, daily focus. And I just had the team and my entire staff fill out a survey. What do we stand for? What 3 things do we stand for? What defines who we are, right? And both the players and the staff, what I came back with after they all turned this stuff in, I got about 50 answers, right? I'm looking for the 3 things that we stand for as a football program. And instead of getting, I don't know, maybe you're going to get 5 or 10, right? But there should be a ton of consistency there. I ended up with about 50 different answers. And I had put so much effort into appearing smart and prepared for anything as a first-year head coach that I hadn't solved a darn thing. And again, as I said, and I read this, I believe, in Tom Osborne's book, Faith in the Game, a while ago, if everything is important, then nothing is, right? I wanted them to have to tell them the truth to each other, look each other in the eye and sacrifice for each other, but they didn't even know each other, right? They didn't even have a background into who they were. This is crazy that I took it so many steps too far, and in the end, with 100% certainty, our program lacked consistency because I lacked clarity and simplicity, right? So that's where I came with this clarify and simplify. There was the vision for the future was blurry for everybody, right? There was no clarity because there were 50 different targets to try and hit. How can you possibly hit 50 different targets? That's what our program stands for. How can you hit all that at the same time, right? And so in the end, that has become my driving factor. And in fact, I'll show you the picture of it right here. This is my really complicated way of doing it, right? A sticky note that attaches to my computer monitor that says clarify and simplify, hold coaches accountable, create connection, right? In the end, those are the things that's what my job is. Clarify and simplify, make the vision as simple as possible and as clear as possible, and have no one have question about exactly what direction that we're going, right? Don't put 50 targets out there, put 1, right? Simplify it, make it clear that that's the target that we're aiming at, right? And then my job as the head football coach is to hold the coaches accountable, because you can get caught up in, I need coaches, I need players, I need everybody to report directly to me. And I don't know that I did that as much as I was concerned that if I didn't, what I would look like, right? And so I was constantly just probably overcoaching the coaches, going directly to the players, and then maybe not holding the coaches accountable enough but again, what could I hold the coaches accountable to? But as soon as I was able to clarify and simplify the vision, I have now the opportunity to hold the coaches accountable to exactly what that is, right? And then the very last point that you see there is going to be a big point I'm going to talk about here this evening, is creating connection. Because for as much as I do have to be and everybody in the head coaching role, you have to have some separation because that's what your job is. Your job is to be at 20,000 feet so that you can see the things that you can see at 20,000 feet. At the same time, you have to create connection between the team, from player to player, from player to coach, but with their assistant coaches. And then I've got to have a legitimate connection. And part of that is just me. I think that all good coaches have gotten into it for the right reason, right? To make young men better. And I spent the whole time so focused on process and out the big picture ideas that I didn't dig in and really just demonstrate my own humanity in the first year, right? And so that's the main thing that we started to fix in the second year was to walk in and to create that connection within our football program. And again, I'm going to talk a lot about how we're because that is going to remain an off-season goal for as long as I am a coach. That during the season, you're going to do a lot of those things, but you're going to spend so much darn time together. But in the off season, you have to create that brotherhood, that bond, that willingness to fight for each other. And that becomes a big part of what we, that's our why in our program. And so when I'm going to go to this clarify and simplify, this pyramid became this, right? That pyramid I put up there, it became our focus of our program is to make sure that we are constantly focused, right? Or the entire stand of our program is focused on what's important now, right? Is the priority of WIN, what's important right in front of us. This squat rep right here, studying for this final, this opportunity to do community service, this sprint, this play in the moment right here. I don't care that I just got my butt beat on the last play. It's what's important right now in this moment. That's the focus of our program. And if that's the focus, then spell it out as clearly and simply as humanly possible. What does that look like? That just looks like your best, not my best, not his best, not the guy next to his best, your personal best. We define that with as hard as you can for as long as you can. So I don't want to, oversaturate it, but we do try and make it as clear and simple as possible. And right now, what I can tell you with everybody in our program, if I said, what is our culture and our entire program based on, they'd say, focused on what's important now. What is your best as hard as you can for as long as you can? How? Passion, attitude, investment, and discipline. If you remember that, you don't remember, but I do, is the bottom, the foundation of that pyramid: passion, attitude, investment, and discipline. Paid, right? We got really, really, really smart guys that, got in a room and went, hey, that's supposed paid. Why don't we use that, right? Passion, attitude, investment, and discipline. Passion, if you're juiceless, you're useless. Attitude is get to versus have to. Investment is consistent hard work over time. Discipline, you create your habits and your habits create you. I could talk literally for the next hour on this slide alone and what it means. But the point is, instead of trying to have the 13 thing pyramid and have all the different things that we're going to refer back to and then have my theme of the week, all we ever talk about is something that's contained in this image right here. That's all that is ever focused on in our entire program. I pound it into the heads and hold the coaches accountable to use this verbiage to make sure that we're constantly leveraging these ideas, that we're constantly promoting these ideas. And again, the biggest part of that is your best. If you just go as hard as you can for as long as you can, that stretches a little bit tomorrow, right? And that's what's important now is to take your best and make it a little bit better. Again, and then in the end, why? It's for each other. It's for the brother next to you. It's for the guy that's across the ball, right? We always say it's, you don't go to battle because you hate the guy across from you. You go to battle because you love the guy behind you or next to you. That's what this thing is all about. And that's what we all love about this game, right? Is that it's all 11, right? And so we just make it that simple, our what, our how, and our why that we go about our business, right? And that is what's cool about all that, man. And we get into not, I don't want to say it's another layer to it, but it still refers to this. If you look at all that stuff right there, your best, right? It's absolutely a choice as to whether or not you give your best. Passion's a choice. Attitude is a choice. How consistently you work over time is a choice. How disciplined you are. Again, you choose to create those habits. Then those habits create you. If you're a guy that wakes up every morning at 5 a.m. for our 7 a.m. team meetings because you want to get your breakfast in, You want to get your mobility in. You want to be ready for practice, right? You want to get your mind an opportunity to wake up. A lot of guys read the Bible first thing in the morning, whatever their habit is, then that creates who they are. Then they're a guy that prepares, right? If they create that habit to wake up in the morning, they become a prepared person. That defines who they are, right? But again, the whole reason to do it, right, is to commit to that cause greater than yourself. And that's I'm just going to keep going round and round about it. That's the best thing about this football thing, is if you commit to the cause greater than yourself, then we can be greater than the sum of our individual parts, right? And so the follow through on that why is this connection part that I was talking to you about, right? That I'm going to go into here in a second. But I think what I referenced with the hold coaches accountable thing, and I think it's impactful if there's, whether there's head coaches in here listening to this, or if there's assistant coaches listening to this that that maybe get tired, but of hearing the same thing over and over again. I've heard it said or read it said, I think that, you talk about a CEO, and that's what the head coach's role is, the CEO. And it's said better that your role is the CRO, the chief repeating officer, right? Just make sure that that everybody in the program, no matter what, constantly understands how your foundational values, the core of your culture, applies to all aspects of life. We talk about how it applies in our program. We talk about how it applies in life, and then we talk about how it applies in the football field. For all of these values, we don't stray from your best. We just talk about what it means in life. Then we talk about how it helps us win football games, right? Passion, we talk about what it means in your day-to-day life. And what does "if you're juiceless, you're useless" mean? And then how does it help us win football games, right? And then it's that follow through, right? Accountability is not a bad word. It's making sure that everybody's follow-up, right? That every assistant coach has a plan to integrate passion, attitude, investment, and discipline into the way that they go about teaching, because that keeps everything in line, right? Instead of having these millions of tentacles and 50 different targets on the wall that we're trying to aim at, if everything we do aims at the same targets, or is all aligned and pointed at that target, we instead of shooting a sniper rifle at that target, we're shooting a cannonball, right? We're taking this opportunity. Instead of this, we're throwing everything we got at that one target, right? And so there's lots of different ways to do that. There's some days what I literally will say in the staff meeting. I'll say, all right, guys, at practice today, this is all about attitude. We're talking to them about nothing but attitude today, right? That I want us constantly coaching that during practice. So it's just that they hear, I mean, if I'm a running back and I hear the running back coaching attitude, but then all of a sudden, when I go over to the running back quarterback exchange, I hear freaking the quarterback coaching attitude. I'm going, man, this thing, it's going to hit home, right? And then it's making sure the same way, like we all want to talk to our players at the end of every practice and make sure that they hear the message. And I'll be honest, as a first-year head coach, I had that tendency way too much to talk to the players and then not enough to the coaches, right? Everybody wants to rise to the expectations that are consistently provided for them. But if you provide expectations just for the players, then they'll try to rise to those expectations, but they'll meet the limits that the coaches have placed on them. So if you put the same expectation on the players and the coaches, that both got to rise up to meet it, right? And so that's how I hold the coaches accountable, is making sure that it's clear, it's simple, right? And that we're all pointed in the same direction, and then I can have an action item to make sure that they're doing it. And then quite honestly, having that feedback immediately. Like, hey man, I didn't hear it, right? I'm around your drills and I asked for one thing, coaching attitude. And that's a really specific example. And I don't do that every single day. There isn't like a theme of the day every day, but just in general, you've got to be able to look at somebody and say, that's not exactly what we're looking for. I've got to get, where did I not make this simple or clear enough for you? And if it's not simple or clear enough, it's an honest question. Where did I not make this simple or clear enough to where you can have this, that you can know exactly where we're going, right? So that's kind of that idea, right, of the hold the coaches accountable. Now this next piece about connection, because I just think this is absolutely critical of how you actually build a football team, is connect them to one another, right? And so I'm going to give a bunch of different examples. And I think what's important is that what we do, everybody does it, right? It's not just the players standing up and sharing themselves. The staff does it too, and everything that we did, right? And so I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. First example being this share ourselves idea, right? And this is this life graph, and is something that I went to a private school, a Catholic school in Chicago, something that we did on a Catholic retreat, but it didn't have to have any version of religiosity to it. It can very easily be just what's your life all about? And I'm going to show you an example of it here in a second, right? Neighborhood maps, kind of that same idea of, drawing a map of where you grew up and putting pictures of like the main landmarks in your area, paying special attention to the boundaries, because everybody could draw their neighborhood map, but like what does my neighborhood mean to me? It's different. The guy might grow up right next door to me, and his boundaries might look different and his landmarks might look different. It just tells a little bit of our history. And what was this where it really punched me in the face was I pre-COVID, right? This was after the 2019 season, pre-COVID and early 2020. I have two seniors over to my house, rising seniors, a DB from Florida, an offensive lineman that actually grew up here in the town that we're in Charleston, Illinois. It's a smaller town. They have been on the same football team for 4 years, and they didn't know almost anything about each other's actual life. Now, they ran in different circles. I pulled them from different positions intentionally. I wanted to try and create some connection. I pulled a black guy and a white guy. Again, same idea. Wanted to try and cross as many boundaries as I possibly could to start connecting, draw some version of a connection with each other. But the offensive lineman, his dad actually coached O-line here at Eastern Illinois before he passed away. And when I walked in the door the very first day, I knew who that person was because of that very impactful and almost obvious history. This person he'd been on a team with for 4 years didn't know it. And so why is this connection thing so important? Because you're going to pull guys, even in the high school level, you're going to still have guys that don't know much about each other's home life, that don't know much about what we care about, what made us where we sit today, right? We created this habits exercise where here's a habit that I want to get rid of, and here's a habit that I want to create. And we hung them this was a couple weeks after our life graph presentation, which I'll show you again here in a second. We hung them at the bottom of our life graph. So literally hanging all over our facility were these life graphs about defining who we were. And then this is something I would like to remove from my life. Here's something I'd like to add to my life. And if nothing else, it gave our coaches an opportunity to walk through and constantly be able to track, hey, this guy's trying to, spend less time on social media, and he wants to read, 10 pages a night of the Bible or something like that. It gave me a great, easy opportunity to go connect and say, hey, how you doing with that, right? And then we were able to even take it a step further in the weight room and go, hey, wide receiver, Joe, hey, this is defensive end over here, Demetrius. What are the habits he's trying to work on right now? And so starting to hold them accountable a little bit to just actually learning more about each other, right? Yeah, the next thing we did is a focus of away from football. We called this Real World Wednesdays, of where we just did something every Wednesday to just develop them as human beings, as men. We did how to tie a tie on a Real World Wednesday. We made it a competition, who could tie the best tie, right? Had them, voting on it, and, everybody's yucking it up. I just couldn't believe how many 18 to 22-year-olds couldn't tie a tie. It was just amazing to me, right? Then we did a resume workshop where we brought in somebody from campus to help everybody design a resume. But again, as I mentioned earlier, It's the follow through is the key to everything. Then we made everyone on our program to put a resume together and submit it to the coaching staff for some feedback, so that, man, when they do have an opportunity to go get hired, they've got it already ready, right? They don't have to scramble. I'm not joking you right now that if I pulled up my resume on this computer that I'm talking to you on, and it says author, right? When you go to save as, it says author down there. It would not say my name, because when I got my first interview for a coaching job, I had to steal one of my buddy's resumes, change all the verbiage and all that, and save as, right? And so we wanted to have guys prepared. We taught them how to grill chicken breasts, right? In COVID times when we couldn't have stuff inside, we threw a couple of grills in the parking lot and just grilled chicken breasts. We taught guys to change a tire. Once again, man, there's something wrong with this world. Guys, we had 18 to 22-year-olds, probably 75% didn't know how to tie a tire, change the tire. So I think we're all in trouble here. But those are the things, those are the memorable moments, right? That they're laughing with each other. They're trying to take lug nuts off. They're trying to help each other tie ties to win the competition against their teammates. Those are some of those memorable ways to create some connection that is not football specific. So all of a sudden you've transplanted real life into this football thing. And now I can guarantee you the guy that won the tie contest is still talking about it. I mean, this is whatever, probably 15, 16 months ago, he's still talking about he's the best tie-tyer on the team, man. So it's those little things, those jokes, those laughs where you create memorable moments and experiences together, right? The other thing we do is we force communication in our weight room, in our workouts. We literally make them echo every command that our strength coach gives. If we're in the weight room, they have to echo what the lift is, right? When he says, all right, bench press, first guy's up, bench press, first guy's up, right? If we're out on the field and we're doing dynamic warm-up, high knees for 10, then butt kickers or whatever it is, high knees, butt kickers, and they've all got to echo it. Some of it is it creates just a little bit of passion. You can tell, right, when everybody's just kind of having to be there, right? But the other part of it is it's forcing that they actually know how to talk to one another, right? In the days where we have these contraptions where all we do is text on them all the time, right? And men don't communicate well to one another. So it's this idea where they're able to do that. We force them to answer questions about those life crafts. Again, I keep kind of referencing, I'm going to go over to it here real quick, but that stuff, talking to one another in the age of the cell phone, is relevant now more than ever, right? They're the ones that have to be responsible to truly look somebody in the eye and talk to them. So here's one thing that this is that life craft, and it's one of those things, man, that really, really, really was impactful for us. They put their basic stuff, and then they kind of put in here, if they were to graph their life, right? Good things that happened, not so good things that happened, some accomplishments that have happened, people that have popped into their life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And it's just a great exercise. And it's hard to do it. You can't do it in a group of 100 or whatever. We broke them up into groups of 8 or 10, and they just learned an extraordinary amount about each other through this process. That it just, how that is when all of a sudden, and you see a teammate crying about his mom's battle with cancer, or see a teammate talk about how excited he was to win the freaking 6th grade spelling bee, or those type of things, where all of a sudden you have a totally different relationship with that person because they open themselves up. And so is there something there?
Coach, we're right at about the 5-minute mark here.
Awesome. That works really well because I have 2 slides left. So perfect. I'm finishing up here, and so that's kind of what we've done. Again, that the other thing that was in my title slide that I think was really instrumental with us really plowing through the pandemic was everything that happened, right? Where you can look at it one of 2 ways: with, oh man, here we go again, or what does this make possible? Everything we did, we focused on what does this make possible. When we weren't together, we did a virtual Madden tournament. where we're watching guys play on, I forget what the name of the thing that you can watch. I mean, we're literally watching guys across the country, right? But you can't recruit in person. Great. We're going to have additional time to get to know these guys on Zoom. We couldn't teach in person. We learned how to be better teachers on Zoom, right? Season got canceled. It gave us a chance to learn from what the FBS did by going through the season so we could be better prepared for all those things. So we really focused on that. And it was an incredible learning experience for the entire program to say, okay, I hear you. Let's throw this wrench in the works, but what does this make possible? As we transition forward, I just actually added this one because this is our plan here moving forward for this summer. We're gonna still do that create connection. We have to find ways to continue to connect one another. We're at the point where we've got that concrete poured in the foundation. We're ready to move forward into the next phase where we do feel like we know what we've taught them, what proactive leadership looks like. And so now it's lead, follow, get out of the way, and then there's finish. We had 2 score leads in 3 consecutive games in this season in the second half, in the fourth quarter, as a matter of fact, and we only won 1 of them. And so the point was, in our first season, we weren't ready to win football games. Now we're ready to win games. We just weren't ready to finish. So this was a little bit of an add-on, and I'll be honest and say that this was to make sure that I had enough time, enough stuff to fill up the time here. I know I just got my 5-minute warning, so I want to make sure that within that 5 minutes, if there's any things that came up, and would love to answer questions if anything came through in the chat. I didn't see if anything popped through there. I just obviously stopped sharing, and more than happy to go into any more detail on any of that stuff, or communicate with anybody in here over email or any of that. But appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity. As I said, man, Southern California is where I got my start in coaching, and I'm forever grateful. And I know I've met so many great high school coaches out there. I know how great you guys are and how much you really are in it to help young men be better. And that's, I just always take opportunities to help you guys because I've been helped so much along the way. So that's all I got. I appreciate you guys' attention.
Great stuff. Thanks, Coach.
Question.